Hello, guys. Welcome back to the What's True Health podcast. For some reason, I'm allowed to open this one. It's Maxwell. I'm the special guest, but I'm here with Henry and Victor as always.
Thank you, Max.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Boys, today, what do we got going on?
Today's topic's going to be HSC. That's the theme for today's podcast.
Yeah.
So if you're interested, stay. But if you're not and you did HSC like 20 years ago, you can leave now. Whatever, we don't care.
Yeah, just talking about our experience in HSC and how it was, and Max had a different experience, and yeah, we'll just go through that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So, okay, for anyone who doesn't know, and maybe not from Sydney or Australia, what is the HSC?
Well, it's the final, you would call them the final exams or the final grades that you go through at the end of your high school career, because obviously in Australia there's primary school, high school. There's just two forms of high school, which is different in America, I think, right? What are the three? You got three.
I mean, I was only there for middle school and high school, but you've got elementary, middle school, and then high school.
Yeah, right. So yeah, in Sydney, in Australia, there's high school and primary school, and the high school 6 years, primary school 6 years. And at the end of those 6 years, there's the final exams, and that they all sort of total up to a score out of 100, and that's your ATAR. It's called the ATAR, and that is what is basically used for getting into university, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's a good summary. And just to note that HSC stands for Higher School Certificate.
Yep. And
yeah, basically it's just when it's basically the finals of high school, and then you use that to get into uni or wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
But what subjects did you guys do? I'm interested to hear.
Yeah, well, yeah. So some, like, choosing subjects, the subjects you choose for HSC starts after year 10, and that's when you sort of really got to dial into school. But I think it's depending on whether you're like sort of, a lot of people, there's obviously different pathways to go down. Some people want to get a really good ATAR to go to university and continue in that sort of tertiary education. Some people don't. You get a lot of people that don't want to do ATARs who go do sort of trades and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a wide
wide
variety.
Yeah, depending on having a good idea of the path you want to go is, I think that dictates what subjects you choose, and
Definitely.
I think it's a good, knowing sort of what you're interested in is very important. I think now looking back at it, it's that's a really important time, choosing the subjects that you think interest you and will actually help you going into university, because we've realised having certain subjects studied in year 12 helps a lot going into university.
Exactly. It's so complicated because it depends where you want to go into, but if you want to get into a certain degree like EP, health, physio, having some subjects will definitely give you the edge. And there's also things like scaling which come into play. Like, it's just so complicated, and I think everyone has regrets. They wish they chose a different subject.
But obviously, like, it's hard to know. Like, asking someone who's like at the end of high school, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, it's just such a open and vague question that you shouldn't really know, to be honest. Like, but yeah,
maybe the best bet is just do what you like and do what you're good at, and then from there you see what maybe where you want to go.
Obviously, don't choose subjects just for ATAR, but also, like, obviously consider it, but choose subjects that you're interested in, because they work so, like, that makes it so much easier throughout the whole process. So,
Max, do you want to add anything to that?
I mean, that's a completely different world than or anything that I had to experience.
How's it different in America?
I mean, with us, we have to take a SAT or ACT. So you got a choice between two standardized tests. You don't choose the subjects. You got the SAT, which has got maths, English, and you write an essay.
Mm-hmm.
And then ACT, you've got maths, English, and science.
Oh, so you don't pick subjects.
There's no picking subjects.
Right.
It's all a standardized test. It's based off of scores, and then the universities typically will look at your SAT or ACT scores. You'll take either one. You won't take both.
Mm-hmm.
And briefly look at your transcript, then look at your university essays and decide whether or not you get in and get into a certain degree. But, you know, I was a part of that whole COVID batch that recent bit of history that we all know a bit too well now. We've all had our experiences, but with my graduating class, we were a complete unknown. We missed our entire junior and senior years of high school. So that entire time of prepping and learning more and having to get used to the SATs or ACT test formats, we didn't have that experience and we weren't in school or anything. So then a couple months before, actually I think it was right when university applications were pretty much due, they said, look, you guys are exempt from having to submit these tests or take them in general. We're just going to look at transcripts and base it off of the college essays, which a lot of people would say was an unfair advantage, but it's also a disadvantage as well because of just, you may have not performed, maybe a high school setting or a classroom setting just really wasn't your field. But you were fine with taking tests, and like if you're able to take the SAT and ACT, it reflects pretty well of your test taking skills and also your overall just degree of understanding of subjects. But it was definitely a mixed bag of experiences going through those final couple of years. But then entering into a university life was ridiculous because it was just, haven't been in school for 2 years, you go back straight to university, you got 60,000 plus people around you and you're going, okay, how do I learn again? This is way different than high school where I'm used to sitting in sort of lecture settings just because of how many people we had in the class. But compared going to a mass size university and very highly well-renowned like UNC was ridiculous. And I don't think the first year is definitely a year where you have to adapt. And I feel like that's given me a bit more of an edge adapting to this first year as well. It's very similar in the regards I knew how to study for it. But that testing format, it's weird. I don't know. I don't have experience with both the HSC or the ACT and SATs, but I feel like I much prefer a system where you have the degree of choice. Yeah. So an HSC would probably, it's a brutal test to study for, but
you get more choice, I guess. That's the benefit. Yeah. So what year was that you were supposed to do your finals, but it got canned?
Graduated in 2021. We were class of 2020, 2021. We're class of 2020.
Same as me.
So
so over here, because I'm the same age as Victor. But I was young for my year, so I graduated in 2021. He graduated in 2022. But so I was in that same time period, right? And so how it differed in Australia was our pre-HSC exams ended up being online because we had it was a time when we had all these like local government lockdowns, super strict lockdowns, like we couldn't go anywhere, couldn't even go to school. School wasn't even on. So a lot of my Year 12 experience, we weren't at school, and it was, based on online learning. And when we got to the HSC, it was like it took so long. Like HSC is happening now, which is October, right? Mid-October. But for us, it ended up happening like late November into December. Like it just kept getting pushed back and back and back. So extremely tedious. Not seeing anyone, like being at home every day, like it was just so monotonous, and it just kept going. Like they had to make them happen, so like they wouldn't can it, but it was a never-ending process, and it was just so taxing. But if you look at it on the other side, it gave us more time to study, etc. So yeah,
I think those two examples really highlight what like the government or education body can do in times like these when there's this uncertainty like COVID. You could either do what they did in America was sort of like scrap the test, whatever. We didn't have the resources, we didn't have the time. This will be an exception just for this year. Or you could do what Australia did and try and keep the order there. And I don't know which one would be better. Well, they both have their pros and cons.
If I look back at it, I think you ask a lot of people, they'd disagree and say that the one in Australia just went on for way too long. Like, it was just ridiculous. Like, it just kept getting pushed back. It wasn't fair to students.
So you think the student experience suffered from that way of
it was
looking
very,
at it?
very, very poor experience. But
Yeah, Max, how did students find it during that year? Were they happy that they didn't have any tests?
You must have loved it. You would like that, wouldn't you? 'Cause then you wouldn't have to do finals.
Well, I mean, we still had to do finals. We had online school. We were in online school for 2 years.
Yeah.
So like we were in LA. We were in lockdown for 2 whole years. I was living there by myself. I didn't have my family there. My family was back in Australia and across the world, and it was just myself, the dogs. I was just waking up, doing my classes, training. I still had football. I still had track. I was the track captain. Was still following a religious protocol, but it was just, you didn't really see anyone for 2 years.
No, it was so tough.
And with LA, like, there was so much going on. Like, if you look back at all, like, during that time, we had all the riots going on in LA.
Yeah.
Like, the city would get shut down all the time. We had the National Guard called up to our town. They completely fenced it off.
Yeah.
You couldn't, like, the lockdowns were very strict. Like, you weren't allowed to leave. It was an experience, but a lot of people look back on it as being quite a really tough and negative time, but there were some really great opportunities there. Like, it gave birth to a lot of great new online businesses, like, especially with fitness.
That's true.
At-home fitness.
A lot of at-home fitness a lot of at-home fitness, online fitness, that grew. When we finally got outside, I mean, there was a massive push, like, for the parents trying to get their kids outside. Like, me and my mate Jakob, we opened a football training business. We were training kids 4 or 5 days a week, just trying to get them outdoors. Everyone still fell in love with their sport and they wanted to be able to practice, so we just made an opportunity available. Yeah. It's just capitalizing on, the opportunities that are there, even if they're slim.
I feel like, fitness in general just basically skyrocketed because everyone was sitting at home, like, around the whole world. Everyone was sitting at home being like, shit, I'm this sedentary. I am gaining weight. It made people realize that
there's a need.
Yeah, there's a need for it. And, we just saw so much of that stuff, for that at-home workout stuff picking up, businesses like that.
And, when you look at it now, like, since... COVID was 3 years ago, about. Since then, the fitness industry has boomed more than ever. Like, the field is so heavily saturated in all regards now, but it's not just in a physical sense like it was before, where you had when the main thing you've thought about fitness, everyone going to the gym, PTs, pretty much that's it. That's what everyone's general understanding of it is now. Whereas fitness now is, you've got everyone's got a pretty decent amount of understanding with nutrition, training, online training, the forms of coaching that are available to everyone. The fact that it's pretty inexpensive all around. The only thing that's kind of left now that still has a decent amount of opportunity available to everyone, if you're wanting to take it seriously, is what you guys are trying to do right now. And what you're studying towards, just because that takes a higher degree of dedication. But it's upon reflection, it's ridiculous seeing how much the lifestyle has grown.
Yeah, like, just adding to it is, like, obviously I graduated in 2021, and, like, I went into uni that year, the next year, 2022, and they still had the whole, because the unis really loved it, didn't they? They loved the online setup because they could get away without having to, hire out lecture rooms, all that sort of stuff. It was easy to do it online. Exactly. Like, it was just, they were trying to soak up as much as that online university as possible. So going into that year, after, like, such a heavy and strenuous sort of period of study in HSC, going into that online uni, because the uni was basically all online. Like, it was just lectures, all that sort of stuff. And that was just, like, so, I couldn't do it. I was just burned out completely.
Yeah,
like, talking about burnout, like in the previous podcast, it was a massive burnout. That was a great example of it. And so for me, I deferred that year, and now I'm back, and we're in person a lot, and it's just, the experience is completely different. But yeah, redirecting it, we wanted to talk about, sort of, for anyone listening from year 12 or anyone listening who's not in university yet, to talk about what subjects, the choice of subjects, how it can help with what degree you want to go to. So for you, because you're doing exercise physiology, what degrees would you have, looking back on it, picked to?
Okay, so one one definite one is, I would say, okay, PDHP, that's a given, right? Because we're not going to get into this, but it's, even though the syllabus is super outdated, right? You're going to learn stuff that's not true, but it's it's in the health space. You learn about epidemiology. So core 1 is about epidemiology. Core 2 was more about sort of the EP. Yeah, so maybe core 1 is more about I guess in that sense there's a wide variety of things that that you would learn in PDHP. So that one's definitely one. Another one, I would say advanced maths, only because
it's always handy.
Because not only is it handy just for in general, like just for life, but understanding research. Research is statistics basically. So the more you understand that, the better, the easier the transition to research will be, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So learning things like p-values, z-scores, all that will transfer into exercise physiology or health science, whatever, when you're reading research. So that's the second one. And then from there, I would say maybe business, but this will be a bit controversial because people really ignore that once you leave uni, you need to really sell yourself out there, and if you don't work in a clinic, you might start your own business. So having those skills, I think, even if they don't teach you that much, it's a good starting point, at least in my opinion. I wish I did business studies, but yeah. But then you got the sciences and stuff like that. Yeah. So maybe chem would be good for biochemistry.
Definitely. For me, I found for me, I did like bio, PE. They all, like, having those subjects, it helps. Even in the HSC experience, it's like they all overlap, and things, you start connecting dots a lot better when you have like subjects. Like doing completely different subjects can be so hard to switch between. It's more, choosing subjects in HSC is more specific to what you will experience at uni, because at uni you're obviously studying a degree, and that degree talks about all the same sort of stuff, and all it comes under one umbrella. Yeah. So at school for me, studying say PE and bio, that made it so not easy, but it made sort of working between the two really, really fun, because I could sort of connect them both, and it just made HSC easier, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay, here's the allied health trifecta. If you want to get into EP, physio, whatever, PDH, bio, chem. That's the trifecta, and then from there you can do business, maths, whatever. Those are the core things, because you'll be doing a lot of biochemistry.
Or you could add physics to that as well, maybe. But like
physics, I think is a little
not
bit
as
more
important.
limited.
Not as important, but yeah, definitely those three is
that's I think that's the core. If I had to tell someone what subjects to do, definitely those three, and then from there, there's options.
That sets you up for everything.
This is a bit of negligence for me, just not knowing anything, and there's probably a couple other people who would want a couple answers with this as well.
Yeah.
Why would you put such significance on those three subjects? Like, what's the importance of trying to get into EP or ES by doing those subjects? Will it really give you that much of an advantage?
I think having just the basic understanding, the framework of basically those three subjects will help you for biochem, which is a large majority of EP and exercise science, right?
No, I would say body system. Like I would say all the fundamental subjects you learn in first year, because that's what we know so far. I would say all those subjects apply really, really well.
Yeah.
Because basically, obviously it's not, when you get to uni, it's like a level above what you're learning in high school.
At least you have that understanding.
But it's that like that base level of knowledge helps so much. Like you learn about these systems like the kidney, the heart, all that sort of stuff in bio, right? But like not to massive depth. But for me, going into say body systems this year in semester 1, having known, just understand the heart to some level, or the kidney, and gone through simple systems like nephrons and stuff in high school, made my learning experience for body systems so much easier, and it picked up a lot quicker for me.
Do you want to know my experience with body systems?
What?
First week of body systems, I didn't do bio, I didn't do chem, right? I didn't do any.
Oh.
I did physics, but then I dropped it, right? So that's my science knowledge. And then first week, we started learning about like phospholipid biolayer. And I had no clue what that was. And I see these pictures of like some microscopic monsters. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
And then I had to spend so long understanding simple biology.
See, for me,
what is a cell?
that was a massive part of biology.
If I had that, I would have probably excelled even more with body systems. But I think that's just illustrates why it's so important. Otherwise, you can get overwhelmed. Just extra work to do. And not to mention that chem is pretty good scaling. So then that'll get you maybe the higher ATAR that you need for.
We'll talk about scaling because I'm sure a lot of people don't understand scaling.
Scaling, it's basically a stupid system, but it exists. Some subjects are rated harder. So harder subjects like physics and chemistry and like extension to maths, stuff like that. The harder subjects, they're worth more and they'll sort of boost your ATAR.
I wouldn't say worth more. I would say relative to say another subject like PDHPE. So say getting a 90 in PDHPE would be equivalent to getting, say, a 70 in chem.
Yeah, so
or something like that.
They recognize that it's a more difficult subject.
Yeah.
So they grade it to that.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And then like it's a bit of a weird system because it's unique for everyone, right?
Yeah.
How hard a subject is. You can't really base it off that. So if you do choose subjects, like when you do choose PE and stuff, biology scales really well.
Mm-hmm.
If you choose subjects like PE or lower, like
you have to do good
considered
in
lower,
PE.
if you just got to get ahead of that curve because there's a point after. So like say getting an 80 in PE, you can sort of, it won't be as valuable. But as soon as you get to like the 90s and stuff, then you'll get that raw mark of 90.
Yeah.
Like so you got to be above that like threshold type thing.
Yeah, really focus on
So
getting above
yeah.
90s for those
So
not so
really
good scaling subjects.
Yeah.
But Max, is probably super confusing to you learning about the HSC system.
No, it's interesting. It's like it's interesting for me to be able to compare two different perspectives.
Yeah.
And two different testing experiences of a generalized test that you have to take in order to get to start your high level of education.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say I've had experience taking either of them. I've taken a couple practices, but I never sat the real things. But I mean, I'm definitely going in between my head thinking, okay, if I really had the choice between taking all 3 of these tests, which one is going to, regardless of score, let's say you get the same scoring, which one of these is going to help set me up for the best success in university? Because I know also that in Australia, there's the option for people to take the SAT or ACT
Really?
along with the ATAR, especially if they're trying to go to college in the US or overseas. Then it's definitely a lot more work because you have to take
That'll be
both.
hard.
But considering what there is out there, if you're trying to get into the same sort of field that we are, I would definitely say that the HSC is setting you up for the best amount of success.
Yeah, you reckon?
Like, well, I mean, I say there's science in the ACT test. It's not really science.
Yeah.
It's like, here, read a passage. How good's your reading comprehension? And like, can you read graphs? Do you know numbers? So if you just taken a base science course or like statistics, you're chilling.
Yeah. Okay.
I know that this is going to be a wild take if there's any other Americans listening to it. The HSC is way harder than an SAT or ACT.
You reckon?
Yeah.
SAT and ACT, you learn how to take the test. The HSC, you actually have to study the material for the test.
HSC is like I feel like it's ridiculously hard. I don't know. Like
Compared to uni, HSC is extremely hard.
like you look at the English exams for HSC. It's absolutely insane the requirements they expect from you. Like English comes over 2 days, right? Like that's the start of the HSC, and you basically have to know at least like 6 essays, know at least the content or the amount of like evidence, quotes, analysis for 6 essays, and you're writing 6 essays in 2 days. Like it's constant. It's how fast you can write. It comes down to how fast you can write with a pencil.
I can't believe English is compulsory, by the way.
Then there we go. Do you want to take a guess how long you take sitting the SAT and ACT?
How long?
Sure, 2 hours? That's my guess.
A little more. I thought you were gonna guess at least
Oh.
a day, at least like 2 days. Nah, it's like a couple hours.
Oh,
That's
okay,
it. You got
okay.
like 45-minute sections.
Oh, I thought
Yeah.
I was talking back for one test. So what? You do the whole thing. In
You
a
do the
couple
whole
hours.
thing in one day.
That's
One
Oh,
day, one sitting. You get 5-minute breaks.
HSC is 2 weeks.
That's
Bit more.
it's good but bad because everything's at once, but it's you finish on that one day.
But
you
it's
can take-
obviously
you-
less. Like,
Yeah,
less amount of
true.
stuff.
You can take it as many times as you want.
Okay, so you can literally do it the next day.
I could sit the SAT right now.
That's
Oh.
crazy.
You can sit it whenever you're in uni or wherever you're at in life. Like, funnily enough,
Damn.
a lot of people for like fantasy football, everyone knows fantasy football or some sort of fantasy sport. A lot of people for punishments, they'll be like, yeah, you lost, you're 35 years old, go sit the SAT.
Wow.
For just
That's
no
interesting.
other reason.
Okay.
So
It's very generalized.
It's
I think
very
that's a
general.
negative.
It's
Like,
very generalized. It's an old, very, very old system that I think they're starting to take out. Like, I think now in the
I hope
US,
so.
I think they're just going on off transcripts and essays, just really basing it off of how well have you really done over 4 years, rather
Yeah.
than just, can you take this test that you've probably studied to try and take for the last 2 years? And it doesn't
That's a
really
better approach.
doesn't really reflect your overall degree of skills.
Yeah, it's definitely a better approach. I
Well,
think.
how was, because obviously in UNC you were studying
UNC, I
photography or
was
something?
UNC. I was studying business and photography.
Right. So yeah, how did that work coming, like the transfer? How did the transfer work to Sydney work?
None of my classes transferred.
Yeah. So what did
None
they
of them.
use to, how did Sydney Uni grade your level of,
That was, that was an experience because there's not a system set up for an Australian who's had all of their education in the US coming back to Australia to study in Australia with no HSC, SAT or ACT scores. And
that's a unique situation.
that's yes, and it was crazy because every university that I was calling, and even here, I actually don't know if I'm whether or not I'm allowed to say this, but we had to get special exemptions because every university that I was calling up. Because I was getting turned back on the applications, like the application forms. I can't remember the website that
so
you
were
have to,
you, were
you
you
have to
applying
go
as an
through.
international student or like,
No, I was applying as a citizen
Right.
because I'm a citizen here.
yeah, but you had to like call up and really sort of,
I had to call up and tell them. They're going, oh no, yeah, you have to take an SAT or ACT or the HSC. I'm like, I'm 3 years out of high school.
Yeah.
I'm not taking that test. I'm
Yeah,
3 years out of high school. I've just completed a year of university in the US. There's no way I'm taking that. I already had to do it.
Right.
And you know, it was a crazy experience, but you know, I'm here now, so can't complain about that.
so you obviously got through the process.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm here. I'm a student. I'm not just a random dude that's coming up to classes and just magically following you guys
So
around.
was your original goal to just like you were just trying to get straight into ES, or was it exercise science, or was it like you were trying to get into anything you could sort of get into in the health field, or was this your actual goal?
I was determined to get into this field because I knew exactly what I wanted to do with where I wanted to go with my career, with getting back into working with
Nutrition and
supplements,
stuff, yeah.
nutrition, and getting back with football in the long term. And I knew that this degree would set me in the right direction for it.
Yeah, right.
I know that there wasn't necessarily something specific that would really just give me a straight and narrow shot at what I want. But I mean, at the same time, life's never going to really give you that.
Yeah, well, they offer, I think then they offer like some nutrition dietetics course.
They offer nutrition, but there's nothing really, I mean, in the sense of supplement.
I think that's hard. That's a
supplementation.
hard one to get into as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not fun.
Yeah, interesting. Very interesting. How that whole transfer for you has been. That would have been a massive process.
It was crazy. It was I ended up I finished my first year of college, moved back within like 3 weeks notice of that I had to move back to Australia, and then ended up having to take 6 months off of uni because actually it was pretty much 6 months. 6 months off of uni because I'd missed the time I'd moved back. The semester had already started. I'd missed application deadlines, all that sort of stuff. I had no information on it. And regardless of all the Australians I was talking to, like no one knew how to help me out with it. And I don't think even the universities really knew, which was crazy.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm here now, loving it, loving being back home, being back at uni. Love the degree, meeting you boys. Can't complain.
Yeah.
I mean, but still always go Tar Heels. We're undefeated.
Yeah.
I love our football team. Drake May, oh, you're the best.
Different language.
Yeah, different language,
Yeah.
but I'll make you boys Tar Heel fans someday.
We'll see about that.
Nice.
I think to wrap up, well, here's a question for you guys. If you could go back in time to when you were doing your finals, what would be some of the things you would do differently to basically to set you up for success in your uni life?
It's a hard one though.
Yeah, have a think.
It's obviously hard because there's not much I could do differently in that time. It was just, we were so constrained that there was hardly anything we could do really. Like I was basically, I could say just not try so hard, but like there was nothing else I could do. Like I was just literally living the same day over and over. I'm pretty proud of myself really that I got the ATAR I got because of, thankfully it reflected the amount of work I put in, because I really did like just work so hard. Like that was something I'm definitely don't regret doing. But yeah, if I did look back, and I'd say probably just, I don't know, definitely don't put too much stress on it. Like just don't stress too much, because we know like there's always pathways in uni.
Yep.
There's a lot of
Don't
pathways.
suffer your mental health for it.
No, definitely not.
Don't suffer it, but at the same degree, like if you're doing well throughout the entire semester, you're getting towards the end, just have those moments just to rest, breathe, have a life outside of school, because that's what you're meant to do. You have a life. Enjoy what you enjoy. Get outside, get some air, touch grass.
Sort of grass, mate.
The grass. I don't know what you're on about.
Okay.
That's illegal here, dude.
You know.
Yeah, I do. I'm on top of that sort of stuff.
Okay.
And you know, get those breaks like that you need, but at the same time, don't drop off the effort. If you're getting to the end, you see the end in sight, go through the finish line. Go 10 meters through it, sprint through it.
Yeah.
Like give it everything you have left, because at the end of the day, if it's your finals, year 12, those are the ones that universities are going to look at the most. Those are the ones that are going to matter the most. So, I mean, I know that saying that kind of loads a bit more stress and tension on top of it, but if you're going to perform, that's the time to perform. Study for it.
Definitely.
And don't set unrealistic goals.
Yeah.
Like
Just
setting
give
a
it your best
goal,
shot.
or I want to become a physio or something, or I want to go into undergrad physio. It's like a 99 ATAR. Don't set unrealistic goals and have like it doesn't all come down to the ATAR, but obviously it's extremely important. But like, yeah, definitely don't stress if you can't get into, say, physio, because say you get into EP, then there's always transfers. There's always
Accept the uncertainty.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Even if you don't get your first goal, your first option,
There's always more.
It's so corny to say that though. Like, there's always other pathways.
You got to be patient.
I know.
It's just patience.
It's true, and just because there's other pathways doesn't mean it's worse than your goal. Everyone has their own different pathway, and I think that maybe doing something else, or maybe there's a reason why you didn't get that what you exactly wanted, and maybe it does help you out in the long run. You know.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people get, and I think this is a common theme. A lot of people get caught up. A lot of students, young kids, teenagers, they like, I found myself, and I know that a lot of people constantly get asked by the older adults, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go in life? Like, what's your aspirations? What do you want to study? Those questions are often like stressful, because then you realize, shit, what am I going to do? Like, and then you start questioning and all that sort of stuff. So when people ask you that, just don't put too much stress on that question. Just have an area you want to go to, and just, as long as you're doing something, that's what matters. That keeps you going.
If you don't know, that's fine. Yeah, don't stress about it if you don't know. Your time will come. Or if you don't know, try for something that you might like. See if you like it. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. and then try something else.
Yeah.
But if you do know what you want to do, like I knew I wanted to do physio, go set up connections early. Go do some work experience with some.
Talk to people, yeah.
Yeah, talk to people. Get to see if that's actually what you want to do, because you might have an idea of what a physio does or EP does, but actually going to see someone and how they treat people and just like their day in the life, that it could make or break it, to be honest.
Yeah.
But
And like these people like you're going to be like 18 years old. You've got so much of your life to live. This one decision at this age is not going to change anything. Like, you've got plenty of time.
And get your foot through the door. If you're trying to get into this industry that we're all trying to break into, get your foot through the door. Like, I mean,
Be proactive.
the earlier the better.
Be proactive. Yeah, exactly. Like, even before you start your uni studies, like I know you guys are finishing up your Cert 3s. Like,
Yeah.
Get into the door, get involved, even with the fitness industry. If it's not necessarily what you want to do, being an EP, like it gets you involved. You get used to that setting, working with clients, building rapport with people, knowing how a business works, running your own business.
It's taking opportunities.
There's all great skills.
It's a great example of an opportunity that's right there and ready for you. Like a lot of people, if you're studying EP or ES, more than likely you're probably going to the gym pretty often. Get involved.
Exactly.
Just get your certifications, become a PT. You don't have to be insane. You don't have to be wanting to load people up to be bodybuilders. Just, be friendly. Help people get healthier in all regards. I mean, especially with you two. You're working on, you've created a podcast. Now you're taking the next steps to put yourself further and further in the industry. It's great. You're doing the right things, and more people should be wanting to do that as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And don't just go through the motions, just doing HSC, then doing
Be different.
uni.
Just be different. That's
stand out. Do something that's above what you're expected to do, and I think it will serve you in the long run.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
sweet.
think that's a good note to
Good
wrap
little
it
wrap
up
up,
on.
yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty.
But
Well,
yeah.
everyone, thanks for listening. So I hope you like some of the points we've talked about. It might not apply to everyone, but it's definitely good for those still studying to listen in and hear some of that stuff we said, because I think that some really valuable points, even for like the young people in high school, like not even near HSC yet.
Yeah.
So
Right now is HSC period, so anyone listening, good luck as well.
good luck. They're doing it right now, probably.
Right. Oh yeah, it is going right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for those who have
Actually
already
on time.
done it, good job.
Yeah, well
You're
done.
done.
You
Don't
got
Just
through
a
stress
pat
about
on
it.
the back for going through that.
got
Don't
the
stress on it. Don't relive that stress from what we were talking about as well.
They probably did.
Let it
Anyway.
go.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Alrighty.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.